to do a video here. We're going to take our time, kind of just a few minutes here, letting people join. If you're all like me, you might be late, so we'll just wait a few minutes here. Numbers are still growing.
Somebody's hanging out with some Canadian geese.
This is why we mute it. All right, let's do I think we're starting to level out here now, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Let me just get this all on the screen here so I can see it.
And he lives.
All right. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at today. So we've been, kind of hinting that we're going to have a special guest today, and I'm really excited about that. Before we start, I want to just kind of frame this. We wanted this to be a little more organized, so we're going to try to keep the topics on a couple of things here. I will be talking later on a little bit about kind of what's coming up next and welcome some of your questions around that. I think there's been some things going on in chat right now about you saw a testing the waters statement. We cannot and will not answer any questions about securities or offerings or anything like that right now. Just be patient. As time moves forward, you'll understand where that is going. But we'd like to talk a lot today about regulation, honestly, and crypto, and understanding Pink Panda Holdings' approach to that. So I'd like to invite Gene Trano to come on video now, if he's lingering there.
Here we go.
There he is. All right. So everyone, welcome Gene Trano. Gene has been working with Pink Panda for, gosh, a long time now. It feels like a long time. And extremely happy to have him on the team. He's our senior advisor, not only around compliance and regulation, but crypto business as a whole. Just a real pleasure to work with, and I really couldn't do him justice in introducing him. I'd appreciate, let him introduce himself and kind of give his little background so you can get to know him a little bit better. So I'll kick it over to you, Gene.
Sure. So I'm excited to be here. I met Adam through a friend of mine, and was introduced probably about, seems like a lot longer, but maybe 60 days ago, when Pink Panda was just first launching. And I'm very interested in this space. I spent most of my career in the financial services world, doing regulatory compliance, both on the bank side and the money service businesses. I served a stint at PayPal as the global head of anti-money laundering compliance, and then their chief compliance officer. And that was an exciting time. Took some time off to take care of my mom and did some other things, and always been very close to this industry. I think DeFi is the future, and we're seeing that now. I think from a regulatory perspective, just quickly as a high-level overview, there is a lot of talk, but not a lot of direction. So we have taken the, I think, approach to obviously want to meet the standards that are set forth by the various regulators around the world. Not going to be hard, because I don't think there'll be any surprises. I just think that we haven't seen clarity yet. So we will approach those issues as they materialize.
Awesome. So good to have you here, Gene, and regulatory compliance and forward-looking towards the regulatory compliance really is one of the cornerstones, right, of Pink Panda's strategy. We are poised to become an outreach, right, to mass adoption of DeFi through a mobile phone. And we're going to be running a series of interviews, if you haven't seen, on some pretty major networks. And I can tell you, just from my last 3 months of experience with the community, as well as my own personal experience on trying to understand and learn and interact, right, with the Binance Smart Chain ecosystem, how incredibly challenging and difficult it is to your average person. I mean, I don't know what that number is, but I would guess the new to crypto people who try to get on to the Binance Smart Chain and try to swap on PancakeSwap, I'd say probably at least half just give up. I remember when this first started, a good friend of mine, I spent 2 hours working with him to go through all the steps to basically let him buy some Pink Panda, right? I mean, 2 hours, and this is not a person who, is unfamiliar with technology. So we do have a lot of plans. I'll talk about those a little bit more in the conversation today on how we can make this easier for mass adoption for the average user, because I think that's where we're seeing the biggest growth in crypto, and especially in DeFi, is that everyone's heard about it and it's not easy to get on. And so I think that really is our niche here, is to be able to create an easy mobile phone based experience that is fully regulatory compliant and forward looking in that regulatory compliance. So someone who wants to use our platform feels as safe as using any traditional finance platform out there. So enough about that. I think we're at a point here where we could start taking some questions. Again, I prefer we talk first about like regulations and regulations around crypto, maybe a little more about Gene and his background to respect his time. So let's see if the mods have anything they've picked up yet here in chat to bring to us.
There's one thing that I've kind of caught wind of, and it's for Gene, and it's kind of with your background in PayPal and kind of and Pink Panda. If you could go into a little bit more about what either drew you to Pink Panda, or kind of what really encouraged your move over to help Adam with the little crypto journey that's going on.
Yeah, so two things really. I think most people probably don't know this, but back in 2012, PayPal actually linked with Coinbase. They were newly formed at the time to add Bitcoin to our wallet through an API call out to Coinbase. So we were allowing our customers back in 2012 to use Bitcoin to purchase merchandise. Overstock.com was, I think, the next follower in that space. So I've had a keen interest in the whole crypto space. I think my view has always been, and this is probably goes back to the 90s when I was in the credit card industry, is he who captures the technology will capture the future of payments and financial services. And we're actually seeing that explosion today. So for me, this was a natural kind of partnership relationship, or certainly for me, a learning experience. And what drew me, I think, to Pink Panda in particular over a lot of the others is I think the advancement of technology using the mobile app as a way to really expand folks who may not otherwise be exposed to the crypto market. But also, I think it's a social platform of wanting to give back to the community and give back to charities that have folks that need some help or a helping hand. And I think that, to me, combined with really the explosion of DeFi, which we're seeing even as we speak. I read articles probably all day long. I send usually most of the ones I read to Adam, or he sends them to me. And actually, the two he sent to me yesterday were two that I read and decided not to send to him because I figured he had already read them. But I think this is really the future. And for me, the aspect of the social aspect of it, I think, is really, I have also said for years that the industry, the financial services industry, is skewed really against the non-banked and the underbanked and people who don't have access to financial services. We make it very hard for people to enter the financial services system, to be able to invest, to save, to spend, to borrow. I said to a friend of mine I was on the phone with yesterday that that I think FICO is dead, or certainly dying a slow death. And I believe that's the case because of technology. I mean, I think the company he works for is called Earned, and they actually give advances to people on their payroll in advance, and there's no fees, no charge, no service. And it's like, why can't banks do that? Well, banks can do that, but they don't, because they can make a lot of money off of fees, overdrafts, and other things. And I think that's going to be the wave of the past, because the wave of the future is going to be inclusion, and having people who never had access to financial services, to the payment system, or certainly to be able to borrow to get ahead, is really the future. And I think DeFi is going to be that platform. So I hope that answered the question.
I think that was fantastic. That's got me stoked.
Good.
Okay, we got one question in the chat from Big Belly. Is asking what crypto projects, if any, are viewed as competitors of Pink Panda.
I guess I can take this one, and I'll give you first my theory on competition in the crypto space, and then who I've seen out there. So my approach to competitors is I really don't pay much attention to them. I focus on the value proposition that we have. I think that there's probably quite a few authors and speakers out there that have that take. It's like if you're running a race, you're not looking to see who's behind you or who's gaining on you. You look forward and run, man. So now that being said, like we did look at, we chose SafeMoon to fork off of, for example, because SafeMoon came up with a really great reflection token, right? So maybe SafeMoon can be considered a competitor to us. I hear people ask me all the time, where are they at with this? Where are they at with that? Well, they're building a wallet, and so anyone theoretically who's building a wallet is a competitor to us. Anyone who is building a decentralized exchange or has an existing decentralized exchange is a competitor to us. Anyone who is active in, the mobile space is potentially a competitor to us. From my perspective, if you look at the traditional finance industry, there's I don't know how many banks, brokerage firms are there, right? I mean, we could probably battle off 20 of the big players and then another 100 or so of the mid to smaller size players. So I think there's plenty of space and room for competition in DeFi, because I think it's growing so fast that no one can actually capture the entire market share. I just don't think it's possible. Someday, maybe 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, that will take place. But I also believe, again, I was talking to someone about this morning, and I say, well, look at what is blockchain. It's effectively a database, right? It's a very fancy database that allows very fancy, immutable transactions on it. How many database vendors are there out there? Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, Google, Snowflake, go down the list. There's probably 10 major competitors and the major database space, and then there's probably another 100 smaller competitors after there. So I don't really stress about competitors, to be honest with you. I feel like we craft our vision, we execute on it, and we'll do just fine. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Gene.
I do. I think I often joke. People say, should I invest in Bitcoin or this crypto or that? And I said, well, I first looked at Bitcoin when it was under $100 and didn't invest in it. So don't ask for investment advice from me, obviously. But for a whole lot of reasons I didn't. But I think actually, competition is good. It's healthy. It makes us better. It makes us stronger. It keeps us on our toes. And if you think about all the businesses that have gone out of business, I was thinking, I drove by a Sears store the other day, and what happened to Sears? Sears was a catalog before it was a store. And what is Amazon? Amazon is an online catalog that you can buy anything. Sears used to be a catalog you could buy anything from. Well, what happened to Sears? Sears didn't pay attention. Sears didn't get into the digital space, and Sears went away. And now all the Sears stores are being leased out as warehouses for Amazon and Walmart and others for distribution centers. So, so again, I don't make light of that because I think it's very serious. I think, you know, we have to continue to evolve. We have to continue to innovate. We have to continue to provide the things that folks want. And with that, when, you know, we'll be successful. This is going to be a very healthy, competitive market, as is the banking industry for that matter. I don't think the banking industry is going to go away, but I do think it's going to change because they're either going to adapt to this technology or they're going to limit in terms of purpose what they provide to, you know, whoever their customers end up being. But we certainly, I think, have a great trajectory, a great runway. And I think Adam's a brilliant guy and really has built a great foundation for something that's going to be a good future for this industry, for all of us to learn, and you know, be somebody that we want to compete with. So I think it's there's a good future here in this whole entire space, and I think, you know, we just have to pay attention to what people want.
Nice. We have another question from Bubble Tea in the chat. Actually, it's a two-part question. So the first part is, what can this project bring forward that could appear to be a threat to this DeFi space? And the second part is, what will this project aim to do better than our competitors?
I'm not sure I understand the first question, a threat to the DeFi space. Thinking about that, I guess I don't understand the question. So let me speak to the second one. What will we do better than our competitors? Well, my vision is that we have an application that is elegant, that it's easy to use, that it is like obsessively focused on the end user, right? And believe it or not, I can close my eyes and I can see the application in my head, right? It's just building that is a whole different story. You know, there's a lot of traditional finance organizations out there, and we talk about Robinhood a lot. And I think what Robinhood has done extremely well is made it really easy to interact, right, with their UI. Now, you know, I don't necessarily agree with their business practices, but from a front end perspective, I think they do an amazing job. And that's kind of where, you know, inspiration, right, is we want to be the extremely easy to use, flexible application, right? You know, there's a lot of tools out there right now. If you've got three monitors and you're a power trader, or that's not the app for you. This is for someone who wants to get online, you know, get on their phone, select and swap for a crypto or invest in a liquidity pool or make a leverage trade or whatever, be able to have some settings in there that allow them to step away from that interaction. So limit orders and things like that, and not have to you know, spend all this time, effort, and energy on creating an investment in crypto, right? You know, and I won't go into everything that we're doing right now, but think of, you know, some simple things that could be easily added. I have very much an end user early investor perspective. So a lot of the things that we talk about in chat is emphasizing dollar cost averaging, right? You know, being able to suggest and almost from a ratings perspective, like, hey, here's what we think if you want a medium risk cryptocurrency, maybe these are the ones you should look at, or maybe these are the blockchains that we feel are you know, worth looking at. I go on to even Coinbase right now, which is the #1 exchange in the United States, and it's just a big long list of cryptos, man. I mean, it just blows my mind that that's their UI. Here, look, here's 100 cryptos, pick one. And I talk to like a lot of people all the time who don't understand crypto, because to me, that's our one of our core target audiences. I try to understand you know, why it's so difficult for them, and they just don't know where to start. They're overwhelmed by choices. Well, if we can make that an easy experience for someone, then I think that's a big differentiator from most of the competition out there. Gene, I'll see if you want to follow up on that.
No, I think that was a really good summary. Adam, I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
Hey, Adam, how's it going, bud?
Hey, how are you, Chris?
I'm doing very well. Hey, Gino, welcome to the team, man. We're super excited over here to have you as part of the Pink Panda family. And I looked at your resume, very extensive background, very impressive, sir. So just wanted to know, out of all the different options you had out in front of you, why did you choose to come along and be part of the Pink Panda team?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I articulated a little bit earlier. The social aspects of Pink Panda really are sort of the icing on the cake to a very interesting project. I mean, and as we both, Adam and I, talked about before, there are so many um, new DeFi platforms opening every day. I mean, the list grows incredibly. And I think a couple years from now, some will be there and some won't. There'll be even more or new ones. Um, I want to be in this space because I think it's the future. I think for all the reasons I articulated earlier, that we really need to be able to create a more inclusive ecosystem for folks who want to have financial services that have been literally blocked out of. Every place I've ever worked, all the CEOs would say, "Yeah, we want to be inclusive. We want to democratize payments. We want to help those people who haven't been able to enter the financial services system." But none of them accomplished that. Some of the credit card companies I work with actually did better jobs in including what would have been categorized as subprime borrowers. But I don't view subprime borrowers as subprime borrowers. I view subprime borrowers as people that couldn't get into the system. And I think DeFi allows us to really leverage people's experience, background, and behavior to give them the same opportunities that somebody who has a high FICO score might be able to have. Because to me, it's about risk and it's about your performance and your behavior individually. And that's just not the way traditionally banks have done this. And so, this is the explosion of technology that really I wanted to be a part of. I think Pink Panda's social aspect is the hook for me that got me into it. And I'm here to stay. I'm not going to go anywhere. I mean, there are opportunities out there for everybody in every type of category, but this one is the one that I think is got some good opportunity to really make a difference, and that's why I'm here.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And like I said, welcome to the team, and we're super excited to have you as part of the team.
Thank you. Super excited to be here.
And just to be clear, Gene has been with us, like I said, for the last 2 months. He's kind of been very much behind the scenes, but we're getting to the point here, right, when we've established a corporation, forming an official advisory team. He had to make sure that he had no conflicts of interest, and as a superior person in the compliance spaces, he's going to check all those boxes and make sure that everything is clean. So, and just my approach to businesses is that, I think one of the things that you all see in the rest of the crypto industry is a lot of hype and not a lot of delivery. And so to me, it's critically important. I would much rather under promise and over deliver. And I want to be sure something is going to happen. And when it happens, then, you can trust, right, that when Pink Panda Holdings says we're doing this, then it's going to happen. Not that that necessarily means that we can accurately predict every move that we'll make and when they'll happen. We're developing an extremely complex ecosystem, and so subject to that, I think it was 6 weeks ago we had this bug pop up in iOS that set us back a couple of weeks. We had to rewrite all our screens, right? That's technology, but from a perspective of being able to trust who we are and what we do, I think that's critically important in crafting our public image. More questions? This is great.
So we've got one here from Dutch Panda, one of our mods. He said, "In what way is the team preparing for the TV tapings?"
I feel like I've been preparing for that my whole career in a lot of ways. My day job for many years and still today is I have to present complex proposals to a very tough crowd. So, you know, I might be talking to a CIO, a CEO, you know, a series of stakeholders and trying to sell them a $500,000 project or $1 million project. And not only do I have to sell them that project, I have to go in and I have to execute on that project. So, you know, there's a credibility factor there that I have to promise something I can deliver. I think that the YouTube AMAs I've been doing have been helping me quite a bit. I've had a few people offer to assist me with general presentation skills and things like that. And I'm taking them up on the offers. But honestly, for me, it's just most important to be authentic. To you know, people can tell when you're full of shit. They can tell when you're being honest. And so that's the easy thing for me to do is be myself, talk about what I want to talk about. And hopefully that message comes through. And I think you all see Gene is clearly a well-polished speaker, so he might be appearing with us on a future episode. So I think he's well prepared. But if anyone wants to offer him acting or coaching lessons, I'm sure he'd take you up on it too, right, Gene?
Absolutely. So I'll share a funny story. I hope this is entertaining. So I was on the closing bell at a point. It was related to a fair lending issue in the financial services industry. A new regulation had passed, and the studio I was in was actually, it was called a black room because it's all painted black, and you're here, and the moderators in New York. I was actually in New Jersey, where I was being videoed, and the other person was somewhere else. So you're in this dark room, and the monitor they had placed down below me as opposed to above me. And you know, you have this bad habit to always look to see if you look okay, right? And so I kept looking down, and after it was over, I think what I said was okay, but I asked my mom, I said, well, how did I do? And she said, you look like a deer in the headlights. What were you looking at? So I think to Adam's point, practice makes perfect, but certainly I think his philosophy of talking from the heart and really explaining, you know, why he's doing this and what we're looking to accomplish, it rings true to folks instead of hollow. So it's not as hard as it seems sometimes. Just a few little cues you want to take to make sure you look okay on screen.
Thank you very much. Great answers.
Now we've got a question. Somebody wants to actually chime in and ask the question themselves. So I'm gonna allow them to speak.
Okay.
It's Malco Mano. I hope I'm not butchering the name or the screen name too much. So I'm about to pop you open and allow you to speak.
Hey, sorry. Yeah, you got my name right. Hey guys, nice to meet you all. I just joined on this coin a couple of weeks ago, and I just wanted to know where do you guys see yourselves in a couple of months from now, and when do you think the app could be like getting updated in a couple of weeks or months? How you guys are like gonna start thinking about how to update it, because you guys are getting known. You know, you guys are. Hey, I have 1 million followers on TikTok, so like I can really bring in a lot of entertainment with you guys. But like I just want to, you know, also want to know what you guys are trying to do. Sorry to ask you guys.
No, that's no problem. So one of the things that I've been going through, right, is when we became a corporation, is the way we deliver, you know, what we say we're going to do and how we're going to do it kind of changes, right? And so one of the things that I've been shifting to is, you know, we have to have financial statements, we have to have underlying bylaws and things like that. So, you know, a fiduciary responsibility comes in. So as part of building out this team, I have been crafting an internal roadmap. And so I can give you some generalities right now. We're going to get more specific as time goes on. A lot of that is going to be dependent on as resources come in, as we, you know, finalize a lot of things on the financial side. What I'll tell you is happening right now, and then I can tell you kind of perspective on how I see the rest of the year going and early 2022. So right now we actually added a couple new mobile devs, and our focus is primarily on the wallet development. Optimistically, we're going to see that wallet completed somewhere, I'm hoping, knock on wood, next 4 to 6 weeks. We are also working on development of the Pancake Swap overlay. So basically, we want you to be able to come into our mobile app and swap, just like you're on Pancake Swap, right? But it won't be a Pancake Swap, it'll be our interface. So those are the two key upcoming features that we want to release, and let's just call it the next 2 months. I'll have more specifics as time comes on. And some bug enhancements, fixes, you know, normal things like that to get us up to the next version. So now the next big piece of this is starting to or continuing to build out the actual interface that will be the front end of the decentralized exchange, right? So that is design is still in works on that, and as well as the underlying aspects of the decentralized exchange. So the actual Solidity blockchain, smart contracts, and so forth. Where that is going is that we are breaking down how we want to craft that design. And so if you're not familiar, we added a senior technical advisor, Keith Luce, recently, and I've been working pretty closely with him on, you know, creating a very realistic budget, a very realistic staffing plan, and a very realistic internal roadmap that then we can scale that down and show externally. So we see what the likely scenarios is. We'll see, you know, we'd started with a beta DEX, and this was several months ago when we originally opened up the token, and we basically found that's like more than we can deliver in this time period. So let's simple it down to an alpha DEX that can interact with the front end of the mobile app, right? Test that out, make sure it's secure or works really well, and then we can start to scale from there. So if I have a wallet, I can get your tokens in. If I have a Pancake Swap interface, I can get you trading. Somewhere along the way, we want to add a fiat on-ramp to simplify things. And then the trading interface, and then underlying that, the alpha DEX. Then we start constructing the added, you know, liquidity pools, the added contracts underneath, and start to build out the decentralized exchange underneath that. So I hope that's specific enough for you. I will give more specifics, right, as we flesh this out. So I know really what we're doing right now, like the next 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks. And then beyond that, we're gonna deliver some more specifics as we feel like we have a better and more accurate way of telling you that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you guys, and good luck. Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Now, one question that had kind of come to me through a DM is, it's still a little early with the infrastructure bill and all that stuff that's going on up there, but they were asking if you guys were going through it and just seeing if there was if there was going to be any issues, since we're already trying to shoot to be on board with the regulations and everything before they get to crypto, or if you guys are just like, yeah, come on, let's bring on the regulation.
I think this is a good one for Gene to answer.
Yeah. So having been in regulatory compliance for a long time, I find that governments rarely get it right. They create obstacles for consumers as opposed to helping them, which is what they profess to do. And I think they have good intent. I'm not blaming anybody for ill intent here. It's just the complexity of the law itself, like the infrastructure bill, and the regulations that are ultimately implemented really create, I think, conflict for the industry, and then ultimately for the consuming public. So what we want to do, and what we're going to continue to do, as I have in my other roles, is advocate for smart regulation. Regulation is coming. Let's be clear. In terms of the process, let me just highlight that a little bit so you get a sense. If the infrastructure bill were signed today, it would direct to have regulations written within the next 6 to 12 months. All during that process, you have a right to comment as an industry, which we will, to help steer that regulation to be effective but not intrusive. The worst thing that can happen is that the government regulators are not as informed as we would like them to be about what DeFi is all about, and apply draconian rules. I think there should be a level playing field for anyone in the payment or financial services industry. But what I believe is that with this new technology, we can actually make it better, faster, cheaper, and more inclusive without doing it the way we've always made the donuts. And that's sort of my mantra, and Adam's probably heard it before. I don't want to make the donuts anymore. I want to solve the problem. And the problem is how do we create that balance of privacy of the individual and provide the government with the kind of oversight of the transactions to prevent money laundering, terrorist financing, and some real horrible stuff that goes on, which is human trafficking and child pornography and prostitution. I mean, those are bad things I think we can all agree we don't want to see happen, but I think there are better ways to prevent them from happening than following the traditional rules of how we do anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing compliance. So from our perspective, I am personally from a lot of different aspects, but we as Pink Panda are certainly very interested in the regulatory front. But having said all of that, nothing's going to happen tomorrow. It takes time. And the good news is we have the ability to have input during that time process as the regulations are being implemented. And we're keeping a very close eye. Like I said in the beginning of the call, I'm reading every article that comes out, and I think Adam is too. So we're really staying clear. I do look at proposed regulation, but I kind of wait until the laws or the bills or acts are signed. And that's with every jurisdiction, because a lot can change between even the time the bill is on the floor and amendments that are made. So we'll wait and see. The infrastructure bill was primarily a tax issue, and who needs to report the information to the government for tax reporting purposes. But there's a whole lot of other proposals from regulators around the world about what do we do about DeFi, what do we do about stable coins, and what do we do about this industry that's ballooning in front of our eyes. And a lot of times regulators overreact and say we need to slow it down, stop it, or put a lid on it. We don't want any of those things to happen. So to answer the question, I think most directly is we're keeping a very close eye on it, and we're going to try to influence the regulations to be the most balanced while trying to solve the problem.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. So there's an organization called the Global Digital Asset and Cryptocurrency Association. I actually reached out to one of the founders of that organization, and they have a lot of presence here in Chicago. And I've been networking with some of the people in that, and Pink Panda Holdings is going to join that as a company. They're a global self-regulatory organization, right? And so these are the kinds of organizations that government is also going to be looking to as well, right? Government just doesn't start writing, regulations on their own. They talk to industry leaders, they talk to organizations like Global DCA, they talk to people like Gene to understand what should we do, right? Because I think there's a tremendous amount of ignorance in politics, unfortunately, on any issue, and that's the best thing that we can do is work as an industry and as individuals to help educate them, rather than kind of take a crypto anarchist approach where you'll never beat us, we're crypto, blah blah blah. Like, okay, well, that's one approach, but that's not the approach we want to take.
Yeah, and just to that point, I think Adam, when we deny the fact that regulations would apply, or there's a sort of an anarchist approach as you describe, that only leads to draconian rules, and we don't want that to happen. We want to work with the regulators so that they fully understand the risks, but also understand that we can solve the problem probably better than has been done ever before, because the technology that we're utilizing captures information that really can help law enforcement and really weed out the criminals, which I think we all want to do, without being overly intrusive to the honest everyday person who's just trying to do a transaction. And that's how we want to solve this problem.
Next
Well,
question.
that silenced everybody.
If you're talking, you're on mute right now, Crypto Moonshot, or anyone else.
No, I
have a
didn't.
question, Mr. I saw a question from Mr. Meat in the chat, which intrigued me. His question is, do you feel being locked to the Binance Smart Chain could be detrimental in the future, considering all the issues Binance is currently having?
Well, I think what's happening right now, in my opinion, with Binance is they've been one of the more aggressive organizations in getting into marketplaces, and so I think what's happening is governments are checking them, right? They're like, hey, slow down, Binance, you guys need to chill, right? I think from a blockchain perspective, right, Binance Smart Chain is a fork of Ethereum. And I think they will continue to support it ongoing. You see that they're continuing to see projects going on every day. I don't think that the way that government's work is true try and shut down slash disable slash terminate, right, an organization like Binance. What they're trying to do is to get them more compliant, get them come to the table, get them to do the right thing. And again, Binance, I'm very bullish on Binance. I think that they will continue to be a good organization. If you go out and read their statements, they're talking a lot about regulations and compliance recently. So there's a focus on also bad actors right now. I follow the SEC enforcement, and I'm seeing a lot of actions being taken against fraud, right? Some of them in the crypto industry. So I think what you're seeing is just in the U.S. and internationally, governments are finally saying we probably need to do something about this. So I don't think that you're going to see Binance shut down in any respect. I do think that they might be fined. I do think they might have some actions taken against them. That's the way the government is saying is, guys, hold on. And that's just entirely my opinion. Gene, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, I think that Binance is big. Actually, it's huge, and they're global. And there are a number of regulators around the globe that have said exactly what Adam said to Binance. Is like, whoa, slow down here. We really want to understand what you're doing. And I think just reading the tea leaves, and this is again my opinion, my own personal opinion. I think Binance, like some others, have tested the waters, and there still isn't tremendous clarity in the space. And what I'm hearing or what I'm reading from Binance themselves is really that they're saying, "Hey, wait a minute, we want to get this right, and so we're going to put the efforts and the resources into doing that." And I think to Adam's point, my view is probably if there are some breaches that occurred, probably be fined. They'll have to put in remediation and they'll move forward. So I don't think there's a risk necessarily to Binance. We've seen a lot of big banks get billion-dollar fines because of a failure to comply. And so I don't see it any different than that. Certainly, I hope we as an industry will learn from if there are mistakes, and then we can put that into practice to prevent them from happening to us.
So now that there's a little bit of a lull, I've heard I've heard a particular name in kind of the rumor mill, and I'm wanting to know better about Peter. What is it, Peter Thiel, or and how does Peter play a role into the whole Pink Panda organization? Or
No role. I mean, I'm sure, Gene, you probably knew him from your days at PayPal, but
everybody assumes that Peter actually started the company in 2000. I mean, in 1999, Elon Musk started another company called X.com around the same time. They merged in 2000. They were purchased by eBay in 2003, and both left the company. I didn't start at PayPal until 2011. So no, I've never met Peter Thiel, but I think he's kind of a brilliant guy who's done some really amazing things with technology in a lot of his different ventures. And that's the extent of my knowledge or experience or exposure to Peter.
We certainly wouldn't turn him away if he
Absolutely
knocked
not.
on our door, but I think he's a little out of our league right now. The Elons and Peters and so forth of the world. So.
I know that Ian, you had a question, so if you can hear me, Ian, I went ahead and unmuted you.
I've got. So one of the questions that came up in a DM is Pink Panda is focusing on the mobile app, and will there be a desktop app or a browser extension for the desktop coming in the future?
You know, it's not that big of a stretch, right, to take a mobile app and bring it onto the desktop, and we've had that come up a couple of times. I mean, absolutely, when it makes sense, right? These are simple answers. Is when it makes sense. You know, I don't, you know, want to get distracted, right, from what we're doing on the mobile app. We are absolutely mobile first. So when I feel like we're at a point when it makes sense that we've built out the infrastructure, then yeah, absolutely. But when and how, and that really, you know, is nothing more than just a, you know, in my mind that yeah, it'll make sense at some point.
Okay.
Well, I know that's the questions I've received so far. Has there been, and I think we're hitting a lot of the ones as they come up in the chat.
Mhm.
I have one question I received in my DMs. I got this question. Is Pink Panda prepared to operate in every country with current regulations, or are there any issues arising in certain areas like we're seeing with Binance right now?
So I mean, that'll be a jurisdictional question, right? As we start to roll forward, and some of the, and again, obviously Gene's going to be able to answer this much better than I can, but it's going to be jurisdictional. So where that really starts to come into play is, you know, when we start interacting, right, with fiat, when we start seeing how countries start regulating decentralized exchanges, right? So, but typically fiat entry and exit right now is where the predominant regulations lie. Gene, you want to follow up on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, we certainly can build out an infrastructure to be global. You know, PayPal, we were in 230 countries when I was there. We were licensed in about a dozen. And to be perfectly honest, while there are nuances to various regulations, especially in the anti-money laundering sanctions area, and consumer protection on the other side, they're relatively similar. And so it's pretty easy if we build out a standard that appears to be what the regulators are looking for. It's going to be consistent, relatively speaking, around the globe, with some call outs that we would then identify, like in Australia. I think at the beginning of the whole cryptocurrency development years, you know, jurisdictions like Singapore and the UK, and probably some of the Baltic countries really opened their arms because they wanted to attract financial services and this new type of financial services to their jurisdictions. But as we're looking at it today, I think the regulations are going to be very similar around the world, and we can build an infrastructure that is truly global that would meet the requirements of all those jurisdictions.
And there are a lot of, you know, services and service providers out there that are in this space, especially on, you know, the fiat on-ramp side. So we're going to start, you know, I've already scheduled a few conversations with them and we'll continue to do so. I think that, you know, this is part of a methodical planning process, right? And I get a lot of questions, interestingly, on like, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? You know how chat can be. It's important that what we're trying to do here is create something that can be adopted globally, and that's going to take a fair amount of time. And it's going to take a serious underlying infrastructure. And you know, I talk to people at this sometimes. It's like, you know, don't you want to explosively grow? Well, I prefer that we grow on a pace that meets our plan and that we can manage, right? It's not necessarily healthy for us to bring on tens of thousands of users and crash our infrastructure. So we have a plan. Things will happen. We'll adapt, right? This is a incredibly fast moving space. I mean, if I told you a few years ago that I would have a startup up and running in 90 days, I would have laughed at you, right? That's incredible. So this space is incredibly fast. It's incredibly adaptive. There's tons of technology rolling out there. We're going to take each issue as it comes that's sitting in front of us and deal with it, modify our long-term strategy as we go, and continue focusing on that vision.
Yeah, and I think for those of you who understand Agile, and I'm sure there are a lot of people on this call that do, I think it's the best way to describe it. Compliance in itself is a risk-based discipline where you look at the regulations, you determine how do we deploy that to be effective, and we weigh the risk in terms of how we meet the expectation of the regulators. And to Adam's point, things are changing so rapidly that you need to be agile in this type of an environment in order to be successful. And I think that's the approach that Adam's taken from the very beginning, and will continue to adapt as the industry changes. And I think what we're going to try to do, hopefully, is adapt in a way that will serve the industry as well as Pink Panda's future.
So we're coming up on the hour here. I wanted to see maybe we can take one or two more questions here and then close this out.
Yeah, I found one question I found quite interesting in the chat. What limitations do we feel that renouncing the contract may have in the future? And do we have anything in mind to continue the token's evolution if down the road seeing that the contract is renounced? Yeah.
Sure. So we've actually talked a fair amount about the contract renouncement. Obviously, you can't unrenounce a contract. Let me say this, is that we are working on something that we hope to announce pretty soon that would be an enhancement to the Pink Panda ecosystem from a token perspective that will not only allow existing Pink Panda holders to continue to gain reflections, to continue to see it as a long-term hold, but also looking at something that potentially allows us to add a more liquid and exchange friendly and transactionally friendly approach to things as well. So we've been kind of crafting this over here for a few weeks now. I think that will assist us potentially with some of the limitations that we have around contract renouncement and just overall create a much more powerful business model for us. But I know I'm teasing a little bit here, but more to come on that. Because again, like always, I want to be clear. I want to have a nice, clear document that explains it. I want people to pick it apart. We have I know some people in chat that just love to dig into our tokenomics, and I want people to. We actually, some of those people on that are helping us on that team, so that when we do present, in addition to our ecosystem, that it makes sense, and we've taken into account all the various stakeholders are involved, how we're going to roll it out, making sure that we're compliant, all the things that we need to do to make it a success. So more to come on that. It's a good question. Yeah, we absolutely have given a lot of thought around that. One other thing I'll add too is that there was a little bit of conversation recently about the SafeMoon exploit or what have you. That does not affect, as far as I can tell, our contract because we've renounced it, and only a contract owner can do that, dribbling out type exploit. SafeMoon has had their contract has proven to be extremely resilient, but we do have options too if some kind of really bad exploit came up as well. That's a one-to-one swap is what you'll see tokens do. I don't want to do that. I don't think that's healthy. So I think this option that we're considering and designing right now will really be a nice enhancement to us.
Awesome.
Hi, Gene. Just a quick question, sort of not too technical for you. Are you planning to when you become a die-hard member of the Pink Panda family, get a tattoo of Pink Panda? That's your
Since
rite
I
of
have
passage.
no tattoos personally as of yet, and being that I'm a little more older than probably even Adam, probably not. But you know, I'll never say never to anything. So let's just wait and see. I think it's where will I get it is probably the more
Yeah,
important
that's
question.
We can
that's the
discuss
more
that,
important
Gene.
question.
Don't worry. We can talk about that.
Okay, great.
If it makes you
Appreciate
feel any
that,
better,
Scottish.
Gene, I'm a clean slate as well. And so, you know, I've been part of the Pink Panda community since day one, and not everybody's getting Pink Pandas tattooed on them. So,
Okay.
as somebody in my 40s, I feel kind of silly talking about Pink Panda or Pink Pandas with my peers, but we've been enjoying the ride thus far. Adam has really put together a great team, and we're excited about everything that the future holds. And man, just welcome to the team, and appreciate you taking time out for your AMA today.
Yeah, thanks. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it.
Oh, and if anyone's wondering, this is one of the ones that we're referring to here. If you didn't know, I got that about a month and a half ago, and the reason I did is one, I think it's a pretty cool looking tattoo, and two, like, you know, I'm absolutely 110% in on this. I'm, you know, completely dedicated to this. I wanted to see us together as a community be successful. This is exactly the thing I had been looking for, I think, for a lot of years in my life, is to be on something that had technology, right, had community, had social impact and charity, and had the potential to create, ideally, a lot of wealth for a lot of people. So it's been amazing. I appreciate everyone who came on the call today. I appreciate Eugene for coming as well, and
Happy to.
I'm sure that we'll be doing more of this in the future. I will say that, you know, a lot of my focus in the probably the upcoming months is honestly, it's going to be more on the mainstream media. You know, I probably not gonna be on YouTube as much, or doing these as much. I'm sure we'll squeeze some in there somewhere, but I think it's important that we start focusing on, you know, our a broader audience, right? I think that's critical to our future. So,
Do you mind if I ask one more question?
sure.
Gene, for you, what attracted you to the crypto space that made you want to be a part of it?
So, as I said, I was back in 2012. I guess Bitcoin was officially formed in 2009. The then CEO, David Marcus, who had actually went to Facebook to create Diem, asked me to, you know, do an analysis of the whole crypto space. We did a white paper on virtual currency, because technically there's other types of currency other than crypto. And frankly, you know, Facebook credits and all of those things are really virtual currency. You know, the gamers, we had tons of gamer virtual currency payment systems on PayPal at the time. So we really did a deep analysis, and I found it fascinating. And I think, to my point earlier, to me, the future of financial services for inclusion is going to be technology. And the technology, the underlying technology of the blockchain, and then the overlay of the DeFi, I think are going to see an explosion of different applications to really help people enter into financial services that never would have been attracted to it, or never would have had the ability to, because of the hard barriers that the traditional financial services system uses, like the FICO score. We're seeing that change rapidly. And so I think crypto is a key to that, is one of the elements, but certainly a key to that future. And so for me, I'm just overly fascinated. A lot of people think, well, you're too old to be involved in crypto. And I'm thinking, well, no one's too old and no one's too young. I could probably end up, my mom has since passed, but she was 88 when she died. She was very open-minded and open thinking. I would probably convince her to get involved in it. So I just think this is, you know, fascinating. I think it's going to change a lot. I mean, I don't think anybody can predict the future. But I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad I'm here with Pink Panda in particular, notwithstanding the fact that I don't have a Pink Panda tattoo.
One day.
But we're working on it. We're working on them.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
All right. Well, I think that's going to close. We're actually right at the hour here. We did record this. I'm pretty confident that we stayed out of any territory that would make me nervous about posting it. Gene, I think you're in agreement with
Yeah,
that.
I think we're good. I think we're good.
Okay, great. So this will be available for future people. So if you're not watching this live now, but you did watch it and listen to it, thank you for joining. Feel free to continue to post follow-up questions in chat. Typically the moderators and admins will answer those. I'm got my hands full with a few things right now here. So, but every now and then I pop in and answer a question as well. And I'm always lurking, as most of you know, too. So thank you again, everyone. Have an amazing weekend. Great chat, and take care. Be well.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Great AMA.